So it says here, there's an interesting caption that says, "Here stands the new man. His conception of reality is a dance of electronic images fired into his forebrain, a gossamer construction of his masters designed so that he will not under any circumstances perceive the actual or the real. His happiness is delivered to him through a tube or an electronic connection. His God lurks behind an electronic curtain. And when the curtain is pulled away, we find the CIA sorcerer and the media manipulator." Jim Keith, Mind Control, Mass Control, just one of the fine books on, the manipulation of consciousness that he did before he sadly basically was killed. He was one of the people, I think, one of few who understood that the real war is a war on consciousness. It's very important to always remember that it may have so many other permutations. Now we're seeing it's, mass killings in America or what have you. But, and then all heads turn, as soon as that comes on the little media framed image, then people are shocked, and they turn to that as if it's some sort of freak phenomena or something like that. It's actually, the sad case is it's not freak. And anyone who's really studied mind control understands that mind control is ubiquitous. It's almost the question of who is not mind controlled, as opposed to, who is mind controlled. It's just a difference in degree. And the elaborate Luciferian satanic networks that work with mind control on all its levels, and tying into the military establishment. This has been thoroughly documented.
In 1993, announced that the entire spree was engineered by a satanic cult, and others had participated in the plot.
Of course, everyone had played a role as far as the chanting and the praying. Everyone had a role in that, and understanding that, this was going to be another sacrifice to our gods. Bunch of scumbags that they were. Our gods, Lucifer and his crew. And we said, yeah, this is going to be another one for you, what I say.
And welcome back to truthfrequency.com. This is Chris Gio.
And joining us on the line, we have Michael Tsarion, all the way from Ireland, I believe. Michael, are you still out in Ireland?
I'm in Europe right now, Chris, doing a series of, we're still filming.
Oh, excellent.
DVDs, and also was invited to do a series on symbolism and satanic cults and what have you here in Gothenburg, Sweden.
Excellent.
So we're doing that. It's a series.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us, especially last minute like this. The topic, as I told you off air, is Helena Blavatsky and this whole theosophy. I mean, what really piqued my interest was their motto, "There is no religion above truth." And that's something that I've always felt in my heart. But you talk a lot about Satanism, you talk about a lot about Luciferianism, and that you expose all these people, but then it turns around and a lot of people make Helena Blavatsky and the whole Theosophic Society look like Satan worshippers. Can we set the record straight?
Well, the people who are doing that, of course, are coming from either little knowledge or they have a Christian persuasion. Nothing essentially wrong with that. But unfortunately, there can be downsides to that. I've often emphasized time and time again in my work that these partisan affiliations can be detrimental when you're in this particular subject matter. I've gone even deeper than that, of course, and said that, look, actually, you're actually in an occult sphere of knowledge in which your settings have to be adjusted. But even without going into that, still, there is very much a detrimental skewing of certain facts. And I think this can be proven quite clearly by objective researchers, so that when you're coming, it's no different than we would find if for instance, Catholic writers were commenting on Calvin or Luther or Protestantism. It'd be no different if Lutherans, or Methodists were trying to comment on Catholicism. It's no different if Christians were critiquing Judaism or Jews were critiquing, Christianity, or Western political pundits were critiquing, communism. You have this. So we always have to bear in mind that you may be interested in a certain subject matter. You may even have lots of fascinating, scintillating facts at your disposal. Your research may be very needed in the world. But at the same time, we have to also bear in mind that almost every person that writes, every person who speaks, every person who holds an opinion also has a prejudice. And in the occult area, which I totally myself believe that this conspiratorial information is basically an occult subject, there can be downsides to that. And this is what we then find in a hardcore way when you hear critiques of certain people. And therefore, you have to be very conscious of that. We forget about it, of course, because it's so close to us. These prejudices that we have, these affiliations, these partisan beliefs are absolutely so close to us. You know, we wear them like clothes, so we forget that this is the case. And so that objectivity is often lost. And it's certainly to be found in all areas of life. It's to be found in politics, it's to be found in the academics who have this prejudice. It's found in all manner of scholars. And then, of course, it's like a snowball effect. One person may disseminate either deliberately or misgivenly or even benignly a certain fallacy about a particular person. That snowballs. Another author picks that up without research, continues it. Next thing it's on TV, next thing it's on radio, you know, and the snowball keeps going. And before you know it, it appears that these fallacies are then taken for facts. And it can be very, very difficult to then, you know, convince somebody to do away with all of that and look with fresh eyes. And another point, of course, pertaining to this is that little knowledge. Unfortunately, people don't do the homework. And one particular area, which is very, very, very pernicious, is that people will debunk or they will criticize a particular scholar and almost even verbally then tell you once you quiz them on it that they haven't even actually read it, or they'll even be so ridiculous to tell you, well, why should I read that person? I know they're a fake.
I've seen that.
Hang on a minute.
I've seen that on the forums.
I'll give you several reasons why you should. Because number one, you're blurting something out, and you may be wrong. That's number one. And two, your voice is now being heard by very, very many people. That's why you should know what you're talking about. And of course, we can't even get past that. That person will just be adamant about it. No, I'm not going to do it. I know that this person's a fake. I've heard that on the grapevine. My best friend told me. I don't need to go and read that person's original works. And by the way, this is not a modern prejudice. This is something that 500, 600 years ago, you can still find this kind of mentality in operation.
Well, you know, it never ceases to amaze me. Well, first of all, my research shows that Blavatsky's work was basically hijacked by the Theosophic Society and turned into something completely different. And when I point this out to Christians, they turn around and say, well, no, it was Alice Bailey, is that her name? Alice Bailey was a disciple. And I said, no, Alice Bailey hijacked her ideas. Now, they can't understand the connection. They can understand the connection, though, where Christianity was hijacked by Catholicism and turned into something else. Why can't these people understand that the same thing applies with Theosophy?
Oh, I totally agree. And in fact, they're quite wrong, because one of the top, and I think most brilliant writers within the Christian movement, conspiratorial, there's several of these people like Eustace Mullins. Many of them are my own personal mentors. Another one I recommend is James D. Wardner, who wrote a brilliant book called Unholy Alliance. It is written by a Christian author. He is a Christian. And he absolutely confirms that Blavatsky was swept aside, and clearly shows you that he doesn't implicate her, but he certainly implicates these Masonic Fabian types that she loathed on sight. Many people mistakenly talk about Blavatsky being a socialist because a lot of her doctrines, or some of her doctrines, were then, I would go so far as to say, plagiarized, literally lifted from her occult work, reframed in a political framework, because this was common at the time, and it was even reasoned sociologically why that happened. And it was also to discredit her. Well, these doctrines were lifted, symbols were lifted. I mean, it is an absolute fact that the swastika that her organization used, not in anything like a Nazi context at all. We have to always remember that Blavatsky was an Oriental scholar. She had very little time for Western mystery traditions or Western intellectual